I ruined my boss life. A few years ago, I worked for a couple of months in a pastry shop. To work there, my boss promised me 8 hours a day except Mondays, half day, and Thursdays, closed, and €700 a month, obviously all off the books. Although I had some resentment about working illegally, I accepted anyway because I needed some money. The first day of work, I was in there for 11 hours. From 5:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and then from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. I thought it was normal since it was my first day, even if in reality some doubts came to me right away because all the others had been there as much as me and for them it was certainly not the first day. The situation continued to be this, hours ranging from 10 to sometimes 13 hours a day. Furthermore, for 2 weeks in a row, on Monday, the day on which we were only supposed to work in the morning, we instead worked with the schedules of the other days. At the end of the month, I asked for my well-deserved salary and my boss got angry telling me that I was only thinking about money when in reality I hadn't even asked him to pay me for the multiple hours of overtime. He then told me that he would pay everyone at the end of the first week of the following month. The following day, after working as usual for 11 hours, at the end of the shift he called me aside telling me that since I had been presumptuous, I had to show up for work on Thursday even though it was my day off. Obviously, I got angry and replied that I had worked much longer hours than those agreed and that I would not show up for work on my day off, and so I did. Thursday came, and I didn't show up, ignoring hundreds of calls from my boss and his wife. The next day, I showed up for work regularly and was severely reprimanded and then sent home for bad behavior. He told me that we would meet on Sunday to give me the money and then I didn't have to show up again, which I already wanted to do. So, Sunday arrived and showed up with €300. Telling me that I had done little this month and that I hadn't been respectful towards him and his business. I got very angry and also went to call my father who was waiting for me in the car. The two almost came to blows, so I took my father and we left saying it wasn't over there. I kept in touch with some of my colleagues, some even over 18, with whom I had established a good relationship and who also worked illegally. They told me that, the next day, he had badmouthed me saying that I was a person without any form of respect and dignity. In Italy we say una cosa inutile. They had witnessed the scene the previous Friday and were speechless. They thought I had to do something and not let me walk on my head like this, and they were right, so I decided to do something that no one has ever had the courage or the will to do, or rather go to finance to denounce the fact that he made most of his employees work illegally and that he exploited them by underpaying them, obviously not alone, but with my colleagues, also tired of being exploited, to support me. So we decided on a day and time for a pop check and waited. The agreed day was Saturday morning from 9 to 10, the day and time when there was usually more workload. It goes without saying that contrary to what is thought of in Italy, sometimes justice works, and that day finance with a surprise check discovered the whole situation and immediately closed the business. Subsequently the owner as well as my former boss was investigated and sentenced to I don't remember how many years in prison. The business was seized and now his family is having to pay more than €1 million in tax evasion for other reasons related to false receipts and other things that I don't quite understand. I'm publishing this also here because a lot of people told me to publish this here. This reminds me of a restaurant in my town. The owner got busted for illegally employing illegal immigrants. There were health violations too, so the business gets shut down for a while. The business reopens. Not a month later, the same damn thing. This cycle repeated like 4 times over 2 years. The owner even went to jail for 9 months after the 3rd time, got out of jail and just straight up did it again. Reminds me of Tank Noodle in Chicago. It felt like a instant karma kind of story, even though it was not. The owners went to the Capitol on January 6th, reminder, 2021, and there was social media fallout for them. But a year before that, a federal entity started investigating them for illegal labor practices between 2018 and 2020. Severe underpayment was the main thing. The case concluded in March 2021, just 2 months after the social media fallout from their trip to the Capitol. They were ordered to pay $697,000 to 66, I assume former, employees. That didn't really seem to hurt them enough though. They are still operating, and still 4x on Yelp and Google reviews. There really should have been punitive action. For a little context, I work at a vape shop which is already in a rough space due to regulations and laws the government is putting on us. Due to this we were well aware that certain products we sold/made were highly illegal and enforceable at any time. 25 male, have been working at my job for a little over a year and a half. The owner of the company is the one who hired me and she was the biggest sweetheart in the world. Unfortunately, she was forced out of her company by her son. He is the type of person who believes that he is always right and if you don't agree with him, he will completely ignore you or fire you. he literally forced his mom into retirement by threatening to live himself and continues to use that card every time she even says she wants to come visit. Last winter we had a massive snowstorm, getting to work was rough, but we were told that we had to come anyway. We get there and the snow isn't plowed from the parking lot because he didn't want to pay the guy to do it, so we had to. Due to the lot being absolutely massive, we couldn't get it all done in time for us to help customers as they came and went. We noticed the snow being patted down into the ground and essentially turning into a slip and slide. Of course he didn't do anything about it and asked me and another co-worker to clear all the garbage out of the other side of the building. When I did, I slipped and hurt myself. I didn't file for workers' comp, but told them I'd need to rest myself while at work. The next shift I sat almost the entire shift, and because I couldn't do anything I sat on my phone, only to get up to help customers. The next day my manager tells me he got out of a meeting with the owner's son and I was suspended for a week, 5 shifts. As I'm a college student and rent an apartment and have car payments, I couldn't afford to lose 5 days of pay. I marched into his office and laid it out that either he fires me so I can collect unemployment or unsuspend me. He told me neither was happening and that he was gonna use me as an example to the rest of the employees. I was pissed and cursed him out. He doesn't like confrontation, so he shortened my suspension to get me out of the office. He then treated me poorly and singling me out for everything everyone else also does, but I was the only one being punished. Then comes the fact that he wanted to reconcile by forcing me to do handyman work around the place and didn't give me the tools, equipment, or training to do or use any of these objectives. This was the tipping point for me. The revenge. Due to being constantly singled out, I came to learn that everyone else was unhappy with this fact. I learned all the dirty little secrets about the company, including illegal products, labor violations, tax violations, etc. I used these secrets that I learned to call multiple government agencies, FDA, OSHA, DOL, and report him by name. First, OSHA came and did an inspection on my day off. He told everyone they only cited him for a small violation and he was good other than that. I was obviously angry at that, but a few weeks later I got a packet in the mail telling me he got cited for everything and he was getting massive fines. I then get called into the office again with the manager who told me I was suspended. He proceeded to tell my manager that he was getting demoted for not writing me up more and that I was no longer getting my raise until I fixed my attitude. This of course was right after he said, "I don't care that you called OSHA. This little act is known as retaliation, which is illegal to do to people who called a protected agency like OSHA." He refused to even look at me at this point because if he did anything that would imply he was punishing me for calling OSHA, I would have a lawsuit to destroy him. Now to today, another day off for me, and I get a text from a coworker at 11 a.m. That message was, "FDA is here, the manager quit," and it's crazy. The FDA and IRS came rolling in full force in black trucks/SUVs. They came in and raided the place, seizing all illegal products and all the paperwork pertaining to the business. They're still there as I write this, so hopefully there will be more to come. But knowing how this works out, in most cases I won't have a job much longer and will be on unemployment. TLDR, my boss punished me for hurting myself at work, so I called a bunch of government agencies on him and probably got all of his businesses shut down. Update 1, the ATF also showed up. They confiscated all the house-made juices. We apparently don't have a manufacturing license. None of us knew this, and that means we may no longer be able to sell products. The IRS showed up because there's a possible cause for an investigation into tax evasion. As I learn more, I will continue to update. Update 2. It seems as though through talks with the lawyer, the son decided to actually take the heat for all of it and is going to have to pay massive fines and is possibly looking at jail time. He likely won't ever be able to get a manufacturing license for the rest of his life, and they said essentially that he won't be able to open any new businesses. I know he had 2 new locations rented out and in the process of opening, and those are never going to happen now. They're raiding his other business today, and that's going to be interesting considering that if he doesn't have the paperwork for that business, it could lead to much more jail time. So as of right now, even though my job isn't shutting down yet, his other business is getting raided. He can't open the 2 locations that he's put a shit ton of money and time into, and he's going to be fined all he's worth and possibly go to jail. We'll continue to update. This was like 10 years ago. I worked at a place with my friend. He got me the job. Our supervisor was this short little douchebag. His cousin was all of our boss. While my supervisor wasn't very good, but our department was small, just me, my friend, and Captain Dosh Nozzle. Word got around that his cousin was unsatisfied with his job performance. She was ready to fire his tail. That's where this Dosh got petty. I worked in Florida. Florida is a right-to-work state. Basically, an employer can just fire you for fun if they want to, especially when you're on your 90-day probation. I was literally on day 89 of 90. This mother duck fires me. He knew fully well that his cousin wasn't gonna immediately fire him and leave the department with one employee working by himself. His reason for firing me: it's not working out. I told him that's bull and this isn't a relationship. I wanted a real reason for being fired. He wouldn't give me one, so whatever, I got fired. End of story. Right, wrong. I knew he was banging a woman in the main office, a woman who had a hysterectomy. Why'd she have a hysterectomy? Oh, just 'cause she had HPV. This douchebag had a wife and 2 kids, and he was messing with a chick with HPV. According to him, it was cool 'cause guys can't get HPV. I told him guys could get it and pass it to others. We just didn't show symptoms. Anyways, I still had him on my MySpace as a friend. I'm telling you, this was 10 years ago. I did a little snooping and found his wife's MySpace page. I sent her a beautifully written letter explaining how her husband was a dosh and he was messing with another woman at work, and that she should probably get checked for HPV. I knew she would be like, WTF is this, show him, and he would simply say I was a disgruntled ex-employee trying to mess his family life up. I explained that scenario out to her and pled with her that even if she thought I was full of ish, that she deserved to get tested to make sure she wasn't infected. I never heard from her or Captain Dosh again. Fast forward a few months in the future, my friend said he got fired. He was gonna get fired anyways. Firing me just bought him a couple months' time. Fast forward a few years after that, my friend said he ran into him, his wife left him, took the kids, and moved out of state. He doesn't see the kids, he lives in a itty studio apartment. My friend told me he seemed miserable. This made me so happy. Seemed his wife got the message and most likely got tested. Good for her. TLDR, I got fired by my idiot boss because he was about to get fired, so he figured it would save his job. I destroyed his family. Like and subscribe for more stories.